AirNav Ireland provides air traffic control services here at Dublin Airport using radar technology. When the planes leave Irish airspace heading west towards North America, air traffic controllers here in Cork and in Shannon no longer have radar contact with those planes. Because of its geographical location on the west point of Europe, a rural centre in Ballygureen, County Clare, provides the only contact with those pilots via high-frequency radio as they fly over the North Atlantic. Ballygureen Air Traffic Services, otherwise known as the North Atlantic Communications Centre, marks 90 years as a vital communication link in global aviation.
As you can see on the map, we control this area here, which is called the Shanwick OCA, and it's all this portion of airspace right out into the North Atlantic, halfway across, and then we transferred the aircraft over to our colleagues in Gander. Here you can see Ireland, so over here is the control service we provide, and then once they pass effectively 250 miles, which is the range and scope of surveillance and VHF, they move on to HF, high frequency communications, which is provided by our team here in conjunction with the control service provided by the controlling colleagues up in Prestwick in Scotland.
The North Atlantic jet stream also makes conditions attractive for planes by boosting speed and saving fuel.
The fact that the jet stream flows from west to east over here and predominantly goes over the top of Ireland means that we get the revenue from it. The aircraft want to sit in this jet stream, they get pushed along by about 150 miles. So it makes economic sense to sit in here. And then again, we'll have the exact opposite where we have aircraft coming out of Europe and routing westbound. So they'll be coming out of Europe here over London and then coming out into the North Atlantic.
Ballygureen dates back to humble beginnings in 1936, when the Shannon estuary at Foynes was developed as a flying boat departure point and arrivals hub for early transatlantic flights.
Around about the time aircraft were developed that could transit over the North Atlantic on a passenger service, that's when we started, and 1936 was the first of those with the flying boats. So they would route out to New York, up to Canada, through Greenland, and then obviously landing in the Foynes estuary and into Foynes, and we would provide the service for those aircraft as well. The buildings, when it first started, it was wooden huts, so the guys used to come into the wooden huts, they'd provide that service, go home. We had sleeping facilities here for them in those times, cooking facilities.
In that first year, there were 36 flights, compared with around 560,000 today. This control room is operational every hour of the day and night, and Sean's daughter Ollie is one of the newest radio officers.
We don't have radar, so you can't see where they are, so they relay it to us by latitude and longitude where they are. So they could be at 54 north or 20 west, so we know that they're there. But there's no radar there to tell us that they're there. So we do all our communications through high frequency radio, which is HF radio, and that's how we communicate with all our planes. So check that they're okay. If they have any problems, issues, they'll speak to us, and then we send the messages down to Prestwick, and then they'll send a message back to us and we relay it to the aircraft.
In the early days, Ireland and the UK worked independently. But in 1966, there was an agreement about controlling the Shanwick Oceanic Control Area.
So the agreement was that the UK would provide the control services, and they were then delegated to the UK by ICAO, and we would provide the communication services, which was then delegated to Ireland. So we came up with the name Shanwick. So we have the first part for Shannon and the second part Wick for Prestwick.
Another radio officer, David Gradwell, has been loving his job for 13 years now.
I'm one of these people that has flight radar at home on his computer, and every time an airplane goes over, I'm looking, and I'll be talking to him in a half an hour, 40 minutes when I get into work. So yeah, you do it. I enjoy the job. Sometimes, especially at night, 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're talking to these guys, and maybe they're one of 3 or 4 airplanes crossing the North Atlantic at that time, and the conversation is just between the two of us. And you do get to know some of the different voices of the pilots going over and back. And sometimes as well then say, I go down to Lanzarote a lot on the holidays, it's nice to actually go up to the cockpit at the end of the flight and actually put a face on the guy you might have been talking to for the last 10 years, you know.
The role of radio officer is very unique to Ballygureen. Pauline Doab has worked here in the General Office for over 25 years and recalls how, in the early days, it was experienced Marine officers who were recruited as radio officers here.
I was actually involved in the last intake of the seagoing radio officers, which was back in '97, some of which the guys are still here. They were Marine radio officers, they would have been on ships. So when the authority decided then to recruit their own students, they openly advertised, and because we were known, people really didn't know what went on here. So a lot of the intake came from existing AirNav staff. They looked upon it as an opportunity, you know, for progression, and also family members of existing staff, which was great too, like, you know, because there is a family atmosphere here. Because it's kind of word of mouth amongst, I suppose, the current employees, and that's how it gets about, like.
This communication service may have been here in Ballygureen since 1936, but there's still a feeling that its role, and the role of the radio officer, is unknown to the outside world.
Nobody knows what we do. I remember when I first joined, I tried to explain it to my friends, and they were like, "What are you on about?" I was just like, "We talk planes." But no, very unique. But I feel like more people should know about it because it's a fantastic career. Like, I plan to be here for life. When I came here myself in 2001, there was just one female radio officer. But that's completely changed now. Like, it's opened up. The gender breakdown is, I would say, possibly maybe 60-40. Like, so it's great to see anyone that comes in here tends to stay.
Also here to stay is this unique service in Irish aviation, which is still fulfilling its vital role after 90 years.
We've been doing that since 1936. It's old technology, but it worked and it will remain for the future as well, which is something to do with the longevity of the control services we have here as well.
Well, there you go. A small part of the west of Ireland having an enormous impact on global aviation. And we wish all in Ballygureen all the best for another 90 years at the cutting edge. But that's all we have time for tonight on Nationwide. From all the team, thank you for watching and goodbye. On Wednesday's Nationwide, how an airport on a Mayo bog has become an aviation success story. We visit Ireland West Airport, Knock, as it celebrates its 40 years in operation.